So I have one more design topic, and we'll spend like 20 minutes on, and that will do it for our discussion today. And I want to talk about crazy games in terms of explicit control schemes. I'm pretty sure we did this before, but I want to talk more about games like Getting Over It. I recently played the game Puss, which is a puzzle photosensitivity, a seizure-inducing game as well, that I'll have a first look at probably in a day or so. And the idea behind these games runs back.
Close.
But the idea is that the game makes use exclusively of the mouse, and you have to basically drag the character along. But it means you have to keep adjusting the mouse. It's just very awkward to play. And there's this very interesting topic about game design when it comes to games with explicitly obtuse controls. Again, stuff like I Am Bread, Getting Over It, Surgical Simulator. And they occupy a very weird discussion. Because obviously, if you were to design these games with better control schemes, it would, one hand, make the game far more playable, but would also kind of upset the actual play. So, I guess, what do you think about that, Ron?
It's a tough one. I mean, because yes, I'm in favor of like QWOP being one of the first ones that I'm familiar with. Just being awkward controls as its core design. There's one, gosh, why can't I? Something with friends, like Wrestle with Friends or something like that. That's very awkward mouse controls and very awkward to play as well, just in terms of its theming. But like, I mean, there's a point at which it gets beyond kind of defining the fun part of like defining the game as just its kind of hook, and it interrupting your gameplay, as it were. Like, I'd almost put Dwarf Fortress in this category. I know I bring that one up way too much, but like, it just has a really awkward UI. And if you were to improve it, the game would be vastly improved, but it would cease to be like its weird old school kind of thing. But at the same time, like, it would improve the game. I did not play. Was it Toast Simulator, Bread Simulator? I forget which it's called.
Goat Simulator?
No. It was the Goat Simulator's another one. The bread one.
I Am Bread.
I Am Bread. That's what. Sorry. The Goat Simulator's another one. It's like, I get that part of it when certainly Goat Simulator is one that's just kind of there to just kind of be awkward just in general, but there's a game there. And I think everyone who played it's like, oh, this is kind of, it's definitely funny, but this is also cool. Why is it so broken? And so there's a point at which, you know, you can just legitimize your game by improving the UI and having success in that realm. Hey Nizam, but like, it's a weird kind of thing, because I have no doubt that they designed that bad control scheme into it. But when do you just say, you know what, that was a bad idea, I should change it now? I don't know.
Yeah.
Fortress Craft, I don't know that one.
And hi, Nizam, as well. Yeah, like, again, with games like that, it also becomes about how much of the experience is really, you know, make or break because of that control scheme. Like something like Octodad, for instance. It's you have very little control of your character, but the game is built around that very loose control scheme. It's very hard to really lose in that game, even with how weird the controls are. But with something like Puss, or Getting Over It, or even something like Surgical Simulator, it basically becomes almost impossible to play, you know, because of that control scheme, and then you're going to lose because of it.
Yeah, Mount Your Friends, by the way, was the one I was trying to think of. But the thing that I've noticed about some of those games is once you master the controls, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
There's nothing left at all. I mean, it's just then kind of gradients of expertise. But like Mount Your Friends in particular, once you've gotten good at the controls, the game's lost its fun, because it's all about being klutzy and awkward. And once that's gone, the illusion of any more gameplay is gone. But yeah, when those games actually do have some gameplay beyond it, you wonder why they had it in the first place.
Yeah. And like again, something like getting over it. Like once you figure out how to maneuver your character, what's left to do in that game?
Yeah, yeah. And that therein lies the problem as a consumer. But as a designer, if your hook is so shallow, then what else are you going to bring to the table? I think is the big question, because you've grabbed all these people. Speedrun it, exactly.
Yeah.
No, yeah, getting good at speedrunning something is great, but then as a viewer, how much depth can there be? Like,
Yeah.
there's enough visuals in Goat Simulator to keep someone entertained, but there's not much to like prove out. I suppose you could speedrun it, but in the end, it just becomes one of those things you can watch once in a while. But as a game, I just feel like, yeah, when the game is done, when you figured out how to play it, then that's when it's not a game anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, like another big example, of course, would be the Five Nights at Freddy's series. I mean, that the whole point of that game is that you're really doing this like obtuse UI of having to check out different monitors and then swing back, and you gotta click on this, and you gotta come over here, and people like that. But when you watch, like I've watched Markiplier do his like expert runs of that game, and it just becomes, it's so easy to break that once you see like the man behind the curtain there's just nothing really else to do in these games.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a good example of awkward controls, and then it kind of got deep gameplay after that, is Cook Serve Delicious. I know you've talked about that on the show, and you've had the creator on, but that's, the keyboard aspect of it. I mean, it's clunky and it's awkward, and once you get good at it, you feel kind of fulfilled. But then there's a ton of gameplay to go through, and it's always kind of renewing itself, and there's always challenges to overcome. So I feel like it's just part of the experience, and it's a natural part of the experience instead of being forced.
Yeah, and that's always a very interesting point about how far can you really take these elements. Because we played on the stream the game for the Awesome, a first-person like crazy base jumping kind of game, and it looks very much like a tech demo or a VR demo. But the developers also put in these wacky videos, and then there's these additional little elements as well to try and elevate it. But it still is a very simplistic core gameplay loop that once you play one level, you're done. Like, you've seen like the majority of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and you take a game like now, just having watched you play Cuphead, I mean, the controls aren't exactly obscure or difficult, but that's I feel like it could be, maybe that's just not a good example to bring up at all, because that game's just difficult in other ways, and interesting in other ways. But yeah, I'm trying to think of more titles that could compare to being like, once you get over the control scheme, there's still more gameplay to go. That keeps it really interesting.
Yeah. And when it comes to like that kind of control scheme, like games like Cuphead, Fury, Devil May Cry, stuff like that, like the controls are more or less like the gatekeeper for you to really get into these titles, and there's more to enjoy. Even something like the Souls Likes would be examples of this as well, that once you get past that initial learning curve, you have this whole game of challenge to deal with. But with games that have very obtuse control schemes that are designed, I think, for input as, Twitch bait earlier, that there's just not much else there. Because I've seen a lot of those games where, like, they show, like, there's a show on Disney XD that has, like, various streamers and YouTubers playing these weird games. It's like, they're going, oh my god, this is amazing, it's all fun and crazy. And I'm like, what else are you doing? But like, what are you doing in 10 minutes from now that you're not doing at this point?
Yeah. And I do believe that there is a world for these games that are very awkward in how to just control them. But at a certain point, like, for your money, learning a control scheme and playing a difficult game, one is more fulfilling than the other, and they're not mutually exclusive. But yeah, once you've played co-op or whatever, and again, that was a free game ages and ages ago, and it kind of dates me a bit. But yeah, once you figure that out, it's kind of over. But if there was a whole series of track and field events that used that particular control scheme, maybe that would make it a fully fledged game title. If they took Goat Simulator and made it like fully fleshed it out into a Tony Hawk style game, which like it seemed like that's where they were going, and they just kind of like whatever, it's done, and then give me my $1 million because that's what happened. Um, yeah, it does. It falls short, and it feels a little like it feels like I've been cheated at that point.
And I remember Bennett Foddy, I think that's his name, the guy who did Getting Over It. One of the like little vignettes he was talking about while you're playing the game is how Getting Over It is based off of another game from a while ago whose name I do not remember. And he said like these are titles that they're not market appeals. Like this is not a game you're going to make and expect to sell 500,000 copies, stuff like that. And I guess here's a weird question. Do you think the whole YouTube or Twitch side of things, do you think they're, in a way, legitimizing these games that really shouldn't be getting the time of day as much as they should?
I mean, yes, because I mean, as a streamer, and this doesn't go towards what you do because you actually put content, but like as when people are just trying to get noticed, and that's 100% of their streaming or YouTube experience, they're going to go after these weird games and put them front and center, and that's an advertisement for the game. Now, if when you have a difficult game to get through, it's not instant gratification. So like a game that's difficult because it's wacky and the controls are weird and it's funny because of that, well, that's a good Twitch experience. But like a Dark Souls where if it weren't the name for the Dark Souls name behind it, it's just difficult. And unless you're a streamer who specializes in speed runs and difficult games, then just someone hopping onto the whole game, like the bandwagon of playing games on Twitch, like I've done in the past. Yeah, excuse me. It's just whatever you can do that's instant gratification that'll get you a little bit of notice, and certainly a wacky game that's very obscure can do that.
And I got a video about where I think about like YouTubers and Twitch streamers who chase those games. That will be going out probably in a few days from this recording. That's going to be a lot of fun to see the response on that one. But yeah, like it's very hard when we see these games kind of become big name hits when you have somebody else trying to do something with a more complicated or evolved game. And it's one of those very weird things that we've talked about, that the games that sell well normally have very good playability, they're very accessible. But then you have this genre, the subgenre of, I don't even know how I would describe it, like backwards design games. Like somebody releasing an automobile, with the steering wheel on the, what is it, I guess on like the right side of the car instead of the left. Like, it's just purposely made to be obtuse and difficult, and people still will pick it up just for that, almost like that hate-watching thing that we see a lot of people do for shows they don't like.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I'm definitely guilty of that, but I don't stream myself watching it. I mean, I did almost, but like that's the whole Riff Tracks Mystery Science Theater kind of thing. But like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost whatever example I was going to bring up, but it is like Twitch bait 4, and like that was a very good example. It really was game bait or whatever you want to call it, where you just here's something clever and unique, and it took me a couple of days to do. So enjoy, and it's $5, and it's just buying that cheap thing that caught your eye, and you're done with it in a half a day, but the money still goes to the developer.
And And I think that's one of the weird things like about when we start pricing these games, because I mean, pricing is a topic onto itself. Like that's way too much time to get into right now. But
Mm-hmm.
like when you see something like Getting Over, I think it was like $5 or $10. Like how much was that one anyway? Let's see if I can look that up quickly. But even something like I Am Toast, that was, or not, I Am Bread, right? Yeah, I Am Bread was $13.
Sheesh.
Getting Over It is $8. So, like, how do you even price these games? And again, like, it just seems like such a weird thing to try and go after. Uh, yeah, I think getting to Nizam's question, do you guys think that some developers would make the controls difficult on purpose to make the game itself difficult? Or is it just a case of playtesting or debugging? I don't know. I definitely think there's a market for the former there. Because we've seen that if you make your game wacky and weird enough, you can get picked up by somebody like Markiplier or Northern Lion or PewDiePie, and then it's just them ranting and raving about your game for 5 minutes, and that can lead to 2 million views of your game in like a matter of hours.
Mm-hmm. And then if they see a big streamer stream the game, then they might want to stream the game too to get on that bandwagon.
With it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just a matter of riding that wave out and getting that appeal.
Yeah, and I do feel like, Nizam, that there are people who do the difficult on purpose, and I feel like Mount Your Friends is one of those. And then to make the game itself difficult certainly happens, unfortunately, and I feel like and you could like, correct me if I'm wrong, I Am Bread might be along those lines. And then playtesting and debugging, I feel like there's also a category of laziness. And sadly, I think Goat Simulator falls into that category, where the excuse is always, I don't want. I know it's buggy. I don't want to fix it though. I know that's kind of the point, is that it's buggy. Well, that's also a little bit lazy. I mean, you got a lot of money off of that. You can fix some stuff and make it, because there is a purposeful, like, you can make a movie to be bad and cheesy and do it on purpose and make it like very nicely done that way, or you can do it on accident. and be all Ed Wood about it, where you think it's great but it's really not, but you're not going to fix it or make it better next time. You're just going to keep doing terrible stuff.
Yep. The what's that? The Asylum movies from Sci-Fi Channel. Sharknado and stuff along those lines. Like, and again, like, there's a difference between like something like Sharknado, which has kind of become, now it's like a commercially, low budget movie or low quality movie, versus somebody who is low quality but still trying to do their damnedest. Like, again, like, I think the perfect example would be the Evil Dead franchise. Both Evil Dead 1 and 2 were made on a very small budget. And it was due to the talents of Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and the entire team that elevated that up.
Now, what? Because I know there were snakes on a plane. Was there also snakes on a train? I feel like there must have been. Was there a sequel?
I'm sure they must have done something there. Let's see.
But like, no, you capture it there. I feel like, but then you look at movies like even Army of Darkness. And like an Airplane or whatever, those are movies that poke fun at themselves for being bad in a way, and I put quotes around that, but they're done so on purpose. And Send Me to Hell, was that the one that Raimi did after that, which was also like a very polished movie that had a lot of kind of that gross, kind of kitschy stuff in it, but was also good unto itself. And that's a tough thing to pull off, I think.
Yep. And yes, there was a Snakes on a Train, and it was produced by the Asylum, as a perfect way of bringing this full circle there.
There you go. Drag Me to Hell. There you go. Thank you.
I think I've seen parts of that movie. I don't think I've seen the whole thing. And I think that's always been, and this goes back to what you were just saying there, Rob, about, the difference between Sheep Zombies. Yeah, I think I've heard of that one. But the difference between legitimately trying to do your damnedest to make something, and it comes out, not as, you plan. It could be, a few rough edges, versus trying to do something like that on purpose and then just running off saying, "Oh, you can't complain about it. This is supposed to be, a crappy movie, or this is supposed to be, a buggy game. That's what our original intent was." Stuff like that.
Yeah. The whole argument of intent is it's kind of crazy, because me personally, I'm all about the end user experience. So if whatever their experience, if I made a game and it just happens to be terrible and the person's having a good time, I'll be like, well, I didn't mean for that to happen, but I'm glad you're having fun. Now, if it's bad, I might want to fix some of those bugs, I think, is what it all comes down to. Because in a movie, you can't really do that. In a game, you can do that.
Yeah.
In a game, you can go back and say, well, I didn't mean for this guy's head to warp over to the other side of the level due to some weird graphics glitch. I'll fix that real quick. Or I'll take that, find that bug, what makes it happen, and I'll make it happen in other places too, to kind of underline that I'm doing it on purpose. But yeah, it's just sloppiness otherwise.
Yeah. And yeah, it's always that, like, the end user, I think, is the most important part about it, because, like, going back to when we do our weird games segment, that you can see these games that just feel like the person didn't really care for, like, anything in terms of playability or UI design. And you can argue, yes, that was the point of these games. They're supposed to be low quality, crappy games, but then if they're supposed to be low quality, crappy games, why should I even give you money to begin with? Like, if you're starting out from the point of, I'm going to make a crappy, bug-filled game, like, where's the quality there? Where's, that polish or that craft? Like, it's almost like akin to, like, would you buy furniture where one leg is, 2 inches shorter than the other leg? No, you would never. Or a car that, the steering wheel's missing, or the brakes are, sticky. Like, why would you purposely buy a car with that stuff going on?
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those deals, though. For games, it's like the functionality part isn't quite as severe. So if something breaks in a game, well, you're either going to be mad or you're going to laugh or whatever. Certainly there are things like AAA games cannot get away with that stuff.
Ooh.
So why would you let someone else get away with that?
And I know what the argument's going to be there. It's that, oh, it's just like a small team of people. Why should you expect, AAA polish from, 5 people who, spend 6 months working on a game? But again, this is where we get into that argument about quality and craftsmanship when it comes to digital stores. Like, if you want to sell, a game like Getting Over It, or Puss, or pick any other, Twitch baity kind of title that we've talked about, you can do that. You can sell that on your own site. Put, $3 on it, call it a day. But when I see your game on GOG or Steam or Humble Bundle, I think we should expect more when you're being tied to a major store like that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, but at the same time, I feel like it all comes down to, if you're going to make a game and you're going to sell it, I don't care what the graphics look like. I don't care what, the controls are, or the sounds, or any of that. As long as it's a game, as long as it's kind of polished in the way that you've completed something, that you're not putting an unfinished product out there just because. And I'm guilty of that. I've tried to make myself finish a game by putting a little bit out there and just continuing to build on it. That's not how it works for me, and I feel like that's not how it works for a lot of people. You gotta finish it, and then you present it and let people buy it, because otherwise you're just wasting everyone's time and sometimes money.
And Sam said there are games. Yeah, certainly. I mean, we loved Asura here. I'm really, really excited about the next game from Abbey Games, who made 2 of my favorite games, Ruse and Renowned Explorers. So there are teams of small people, even sometimes one or two people, who can make amazing high quality stuff. And it does kind of, upset me a little bit that you have like two or three people working on a game like that, and then you'll have maybe a team of 5 or 10 making a crappy game, again, trying to hit that clickbait audience. And unfortunately, the clickbait stuff seems to be more popular for a lot of people.
Sometimes it does. I mean, sometimes it'll hit, and that just kind of lays
Sharknado right there.
There you go. And then that kind of lays the groundwork for the next developer to come out and do that, because it's just like the indie game bubble, right? Indie games were you'd see these success stories of people who make a game and it just blows up, and they get rich overnight, basically. And then so a bunch of people tried making really good indie games, and then a couple of them found that you can make one that's not very high quality, and if you make enough of them, you're going to make a good living just by selling a bunch of crappy games. And you always have to remind me of the studio that famously did that and got banned from Steam.
The Slaughtering Grounds.
Yeah. But like it seems like there is no major penalty out there for making a game that's subpar and that's fast to make and get to market, and as long as there's some little hook, you're going to get money, and it's unfortunate.
And then once you make money, you're going to inspire somebody else to try it, and so on and so forth. And like when it comes to these kinds of games, like going back to what you were just saying with the independent move or the independent boom of the last decade, that following developers like Jonathan Blow, Emma McMillan, Phil Fish, like we saw there was a market for these games. But the thing is, those games were of high quality. They were probably higher quality than a lot of the AAA games being released at that time. And that was kind of the major point of the independent scene back when it first started to blow up, that you were getting high quality games that weren't being designed around a $200 million budget that you were going to see on IGN or Destructoid or so on and so forth. And just like with the state of video games as a whole, the indie brand has kind of also been diluted, again, by so many people trying to make their game. And again, there is no standard of quality when it comes to video games, for good and for ill. You can have a game like Stardew Valley, Undertale, and so on and so forth, and they're sitting next to stuff like Waifu Hunter, what was it, LGBT Battlegrounds, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and but at the same time, if you find out that LGBT Battlegrounds or Waifu Hunter turned out to be just, they have that weird hook, but at the same time they're very deep or very meaningful games, they can totally be that. There's nothing that would suggest otherwise. But just know what you're making before you put it out there. And if you make a bad control scheme and you're doing it on purpose, know what that purpose is, besides it just being there to make it difficult or quirky, and make it add to the game itself. Or know that you've just made basically a Flash game. That's fine. I don't have any problem with you making something that just is there to be enjoyed for 10 minutes. That's fine.
Yep. But with the state of the market today, everybody is they're not aiming for a Flash market. They're aiming for, PewDiePie to pick up their game, or Markiplier, or pick any other big name YouTuber, because it doesn't matter what the quality of the game is. If you have someone with, 6 million subscribers playing your game, even if they hate it for 2 minutes, that can still be enough publicity to make that game break even and then some.
Yeah. So, Josh, when you get your 10,000, 100,000 subscribers, you better not be playing these terrible games. That's the lesson here.
We'll be playing Super Seducer 8 at that point. Or, I'm sorry, Super Seducer 8 Battlegrounds. That's what we'll be playing at that point. Blockchain, too. We'll throw that in. But it is getting a little bit late, so let's try to wrap things up, I think, with one final point. Yeah, so I think I'm with you, Rob, when it comes to playability being king. Like, I don't take enjoyment in playing a game that is frustrating for the sake of being frustrating. Like, if your game could be made, like, I guess it comes down to this. If your game had a better control scheme, if that ruins your experience, then there's a problem with your game to begin with, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I put in that asterisk that unless you somehow got this kind of a genius, like, it's absolutely essential that you have that, and it makes for a polished game. Then hey, you figured it out. But like, I agree.
Yep. And again, like going, I think the analogy fits here that you wouldn't buy a car with the wheel slashed, just like you wouldn't buy furniture with a leg missing. So why would you be willing to play a game that is purposely designed to be broken?
Yeah, I mean, the one benefit it has is that it just expands the tools that people have when making a game in the future. So like, if it's shown that it can be effective, then you can use it to be effective in the future. But you just have to be cognizant of everything that you're putting in and why, as best you can.
Yeah. And again, like if you set out to make a great game and it doesn't quite get there, that is different than starting out with the intent to make a bad game and purposely leaving bugs or making your game hard to play. Because again, another great thing about the independent scene is like, yes, we are more forgiving of independent developers because of that. I know if I'm buying a game for $5 to $10, I'm not expecting, 500 hours of bug-free content. And we've seen developers who, if bugs are found or there's issues, they will go back and fix them. That's different than, again, like something like Goat Simulator or a lot of the games that we've talked about where from minute one, it's frustrating to play. So it was originally designed to be like that, and developers are just leaving that in.
Yeah.
All right. But I think with that, let's wrap things up for this week. So thank you for everybody tuning in live. If you are new, be sure to check out our Discord channel link down below. And if you'd like to get ad-free versions and uncut of our talks, be sure to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/GWBycer. We are trying to earn enough money to get an HD capture card, so any help would be greatly appreciated. We will be back next Sunday around 3:30 EST. And Rob, once again, thank you for coming on, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again next week.
Yeah, hopefully only a few more weekends before this whole wonderful environment is gone and replaced by an actual room.
Great.
Hopefully it works out.
Jason and Ron, there we go. It's Jason and Ron who have been insulting Call of Duty, Dragon Ball, and Fortnite this whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll be back later tonight. We'll be doing a classic gameplay of probably Sonic Adventure 1 and seeing how that holds up. But Rob, have you done any streaming or plan on doing streaming coming up?
I'm probably gonna do more streaming when I have more time when I move Super Seducer. We'll try and get Super Seducer 2 out, but I need a little more input on the one, and I don't know if I want it, I'll say. But yeah, I'm hoping to stream again. I did try a test stream of just throwing a camera on a pedestrian in my theme park and letting him just walk around. But that's not exactly streaming per se. That's just having a fish tank up there.
All right. Well, and of course, if people want to follow you when the time comes, you are twitch.tv/IndieVoyageRob, right?
That is correct.
All right. Well, folks, that is going to do it for this week. So thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you all next Sunday, and I'll see you for more streams throughout the week. Until then, have a great rest of the afternoon.